Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this episode 238 of the Tree Talk podcast. We have a special guest starting with us this morning. We have Leo O'Connor live early on. We'll be talking all about the Hurling Championship as Limerick prepare to await who will face them in the All-Ireland semi-final with the quarterfinals down for decision this weekend. We've men's football as the footballer season came to an end. We've ladies football, we've Camogie, and we've Masters. We've so much more to go through over the course of an hour or so. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Now, Matt, joined this morning by Leo O'Connor. How are people?
Good, lads, good. Can't complain at all.
Yeah,
Good morning, Leo.
I suppose.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Good.
The first, I suppose, semi-down week for the Limerick fans in a long time. How have you summed up the hurling so far this year, Leo?
I suppose it's the summer of hurling, really, isn't it? Every year we keep saying it's the summer of hurling, but it keeps getting better and better, and it keeps giving and giving. And I think that, I think it's really down to the nitty-gritty now on Saturday. The doubleheader in Limerick is going to be huge. I think a lot of counties with a lot of aspirations. The Galways, the Tips, and as we well know, Clare and Dublin. I just think it's one of those days now where it becomes a do or die situation for all four counties, because they really have aspirations in different ways, and different pressures, I suppose, really from dealing with coming through. Majority of teams come through. The two teams will say Galway and Dublin coming through a Leinster Championship that really only failed to ignite, I suppose, at the Leinster final stage. Definitely Galway or the Galway and Dublin match, both of them in different ways. Even though Galway got to a Leinster final, I suppose they're disappointed with the result. The last minute goal against Kilkenny, and you're turned over. And then Dublin with Micheál O'Donoghue, I suppose, who's really beginning to try and push on, and to improve Dublin. And I think that's the Dublin matches is important as the Galway situation is as well, because certainly without shadow of a doubt, Henry is going to be under massive pressure. Year two with Galway, people are beginning to, it's the pressures of management, I suppose. People are beginning to ask questions and so forth. But look, I think Saturday evening is going to be someday. Like you're going to have 45,000 people in Limerick again. I suppose this year and more, and I'm delighted to see it. And it's a credit to the county board, I suppose. Really, Limerick really has probably become the home of hurling this year in terms of a venue. You can see the benefits of the field being relayed last year. It looks immaculate every time they go out, and it turned out. And the crowds, I think, like the Munster final, will definitely go down in my memory as one of the most unique days that I've experienced.
Yeah, it's been incredible so far. And before we get to the quarterfinals themselves, how important is it for Limerick that they don't have to worry about a quarterfinal this week, that they will have had that 4-week break going into Croke Park, especially with the injuries?
I think it's very important. I just think that the players are getting that little bit of a break as well. And I think that in terms of they can sit back and really watch what's going on around them now. You can see the tactics that Galway, Tip, whoever comes through those two quarterfinals, you can analyse them. The management team will have time to analyse what they saw, and in terms of the players themselves, it's the ideal preparation. I think after a Munster Championship, what I would term an energy zapping Munster Championship. Certainly what Clare and Tip have experienced this year in terms of the energy expanded to get to where they are on Saturday. That's one of the most important things that Galway and Dublin will probably be that little bit fresher, but certainly the Tip and Clare situation, they'll be more battle hardened going into it. And like as I said, with Limerick are able to afford that week off, and then you go till the 8th of July, so they can fine tune it. The players could get injuries right. It's giving John a chance, even though we have the Declan situation that has popped up. But like in terms of overall structures, I think Limerick will need this week off, that extra week off, because as I said, it'll be interesting just to see what way Tip and Clare are, particularly Clare, because Clare, after getting to a Munster final, we trying to get over the disappointment of that, and then get their energy levels back up again for Saturday evening.
Yeah, and the quarterfinals themselves, then Clare will be heavy favourites going into Dublin, but Tipperary and Galway seems to be very 50-50. How do you see those games panning out?
I just think that Dublin have nothing to lose and everything to gain on Saturday, and it's one of those situations against Clare where they can leave everything on the field. And like as I said, they've had the break as well of the Leinster final, finishing third above in Leinster and coming out of that, and certainly one that Micheál O'Donoghue would like. He's in his first year. He knows his team, probably knows his best team at this stage, best 18, 19 players at this stage, and one that he can really push on Saturday, and they can read and test themselves. He'll know going into next year where he is exactly on Saturday. I don't think they'll disappoint. I think Dublin will turn up, and I think they'll put it up to a Clare team that, as I said, will be getting over it. Will be getting over the disappointment of a Munster final. Clare, without shadow of a doubt, left everything on the field. Brian has one or two question marks in his own head as well, coming away from the Munster final. So they've got to be answered by Clare players on Sunday, how they literally perform and so forth, and the energy levels that they've got to go back and bring to the table.
Yeah.
The Tip Galway one is going to be, that's a very hard game to call. No, I'll be honest, Joe. I just think Tip had played a challenge match literally last Saturday, and it showed the difference in levels between McDonagh Cup and McCarthy Cup. And I think while they got a game into them, and they got their eye in for where the posts are, and a lot of players will have a lot of confidence. Certainly, like the likes of Mark Keogh, and he's scoring 3-3. That Jamie Callanan getting game time again into him. Jake Morris coming back from an injury, getting 6 or 7 points. Like they're things that Tip will really have enjoyed. But I don't know, was the game really of any benefit to Tip? I think Galway are going in the perfect scenario, losing the Leinster final last minute. That in their head, to go out and prove themselves. The Henry Shefflin factor as well is a major thing going on in Galway. Henry knows that they've got to push on and try and get over the line on Saturday and face a Limerick team in an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, do you think Limerick would favour either team, or focus on themselves as they always do?
Limerick will just focus on themselves, and I think, as I said earlier, it's a chance for John to get a look at both Tip and Galway in the perfect scenario. He can sit down, enjoy the game, and he can look at it and go from there, because he'll learn more on Saturday, because these two teams will go at it on Saturday evening without shadow of a doubt, and they've got to go out and express themselves, and they've got to go out and show their hand, and John is of the benefit of being able to sit down, look at this and analyse it. And I think it doesn't make any difference to Limerick, because John will have his own game plan, as we all well know, going into an All-Ireland semi-final, and having got the break of the month. Probably 3 weeks is the perfect break, but look, at this stage of the year, you take every break you can, and in terms of that, I think John will know that they'll have got the intensity levels and they've got the work rate back into these players, because certainly in the second half against Clare, they must have found straight away that 10-15 minutes after half time, I think Limerick's energy levels went through the roof. They became aggressive on the ball, and they really worked that bit harder, and I think that's what's going to get to that. Hopefully will see Limerick over the line in All-Ireland semi-final against either Galway or Tip. Very hard one to call, because there's very different factors from both teams, as I said, coming into it. So look, John will enjoy Saturday, analyse everything and take it on board for 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, Matt, do you think Limerick will be, like, I suppose, preferring one team to come through, or will they just be wary of which they'll have, as Leo said, a chance to see both of them and know exactly what they're facing?
I'm not so sure that they will have any preference, because I suppose it's one of the strengths of this Limerick team, that they prepare themselves diligently for whatever is put in front of them. And no, I don't think that they will have any preference. But at the outset of the championship, Jack, you asked the question, who did I think would be the biggest threat to Limerick this year? And I named Tipperary and Galway. So we're going to be confronted with one of them in the aftermath of Saturday evening, and the other one will be out of the championship. I find it very hard to know where Tipperary are at. We saw very promising performances from them, particularly in the opening round in Ennis, and should have won the game in Cork. But let it slip. Didn't win the draw with Limerick, and then the defeat to Waterford. And I'm not so sure what the game against Offaly last week has told us about Tipperary. It has told us that they have definitely a potent attack that can score, but they have a defence that conceded 3 goals and 18 points. And like were you to repeat that against Galway, I'm not so sure that you'll rack up 7 goals or whatever they racked up against Offaly. So very, very hard to know where they're at. And Galway, of course, they just will have to get over. Leo mentioned that they are letting everything in the Munster final. I'd say the same could be said of Galway in the Leinster final. And they will have to try and put that heartbreaking defeat and the circumstances of that defeat behind them going into the game and pick themselves up. And they've had a fortnight to do it. Now, I agree with what Leo says about the other semi-final, and we spoke about it last week. And I'm speaking about the potential that Dublin could upset things this year. And I'm not saying they're going to win the All-Ireland, but they're capable of taking a big scalp. And you'd have to say that Clare would be a small bit vulnerable after the Munster final. But maybe Clare have been handed a bit of an advantage in that the game is in the Gaelic grounds, a venue that they are very, very familiar with. And but there are certain question marks about Clare. Leo is right. And we discussed it at length here last week about, but the answer to your question, Jack, is that I think Limerick wouldn't have any preference. You're in an All-Ireland semi-final. You have to take what's put in front of you and deal with it.
Yeah, and we all mentioned the heavy defeat, I suppose, for Offaly against Tipperary, and you were very close. They linked Offaly, Leo, obviously, with the 20s and the minors last year. From an Offaly standpoint, and Carlo as well, obviously, was that game last week beneficial, before you ever consider the results? Do you just look at it and say, we get to play an All-Ireland Liam McCarthy team and we just have to take it how it is? Or do you think there should be a different way to integrate teams in that higher level?
Honestly, Jack, I'll put my hand on my heart here, and I've a close allegiance to Offaly. The game was of no benefit to Offaly last Saturday. I just think the McDonagh Cup is the McDonagh Cup. I heard a slight rumour last week that it was the last All-Ireland preliminary quarterfinals that will take place. I heard that decision has been kind of taken already above in Croke Park. I heard that through the grapevine. And I don't think it's released yet. But I think that it was of no benefit to them whatsoever to Offaly. Being beaten by Carlow in a McDonagh Cup final, where they really performed, and I think it was probably Offaly's best day this year. Got the chances. Refereeing decisions, I think, on the day against Carlow as well, certainly didn't go their way. I think a player getting sent off and a possible square ball, I think, as well. But look, that's a different matter completely. In terms of Offaly, the game, like as I've mentioned already, no benefit whatsoever. Like, it was a hard day. It was a hard day for Johnny Kelly, a hard day for everyone associated with Offaly, because okay, fair enough, like the minor team and the under 20 team making progress in the last 2 years, but in terms of the gulf and class between strength and conditioning of Tipperary, and that's the one thing I was at it last Saturday, and I just had the benefits of being able to stand back and look at it. But the difference in the strength and conditioning, the difference in the speed of hurling, it showed the major gulf in class between the two areas. And if you want, in a different way, we experienced that in the under-20 All-Ireland final as well. Basically, like 10 of the team are underage next year, 27 of the panel are underage next year. Very, very, very young group of players with Offaly U20. But certainly when we played Cork, and I know I think there's 14 of the Cork panel of 34, 35 underage next year. But in terms of strength and conditioning and the preparation of those teams over the last number of years, I think Cork are coming very close to the mark. And I think it's one of those occasions where Cork are the biggest threat to Limerick. And that might sound, even though they're not in an All-Ireland quarter-final, I think in future Cork could be one of the biggest threats that Limerick will face coming down the line, because they're certainly making their way back to the top table. But like in terms of the Offaly situation, no benefit whatsoever. It was an absolute disaster. 738, the highest score recorded in a championship match in the All-Ireland series. There's a lot of things going on that, you know, that players don't need that. And certainly, I just can't, for the life of me, I can't understand the benefits. When you're beaten in the McDonagh Cup final, you really don't need to be going out playing a top class team. You know, if you're good enough, you get up there, and you get up there on merit. And certainly Carlow got up there, put up a brave enough performance against Dublin. Dublin were always going to win it. Certainly below in a tight field below in Dr. Cullen Park, it made that challenge for Dublin, you know, the crowd in around them, that little bit more confined. And certainly Dublin performed well enough, even though Michael O'Donoghue, I've no doubt, will look at the flaws of and analyse the game. But certainly no benefit whatsoever for, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's for either team. I think let Carlow enjoy their day in the sun. They won the McDonagh Cup, and I think for Offaly as well, Offaly players getting over the disappointment of it, and certainly puts a question mark. I think it put a bigger question mark in the Offaly players' heads, you know. And now, like, you're in a situation where you shipped 7 goals and 38 points. Very valid point though what Matt made there earlier. Tip conceded 318 against a team that, you know, weren't good enough to win a McDonagh Cup. And I certainly think if Galway score 318 on Saturday evening, Tip will be in a lot of trouble. It'll be far closer than what they think it'll ever be. So from that point of view, you know, it's there's one or two things that, you know, question marks all around. But in terms of Offaly, and like I genuinely, you know, those players, they're trying hard, they're working hard. They don't have the benefits of the strength and conditioning that goes into the Limerick players. And I know Limerick from 14 to 16 years of age, they don't lift weights, but yet they're doing technique in the academy. And certainly from 16, 17, 18 years of age, Limerick players are doing weights. You know, the strength and conditioning side of things is massive. And in terms of above it Offaly, I know the last 4 years with the minors, I have them doing strength and conditioning, and they are in the gym, and it's beginning to tell for them, and that's the benefits of it. But one of the most important things, I think, is the speed of hurling that Offaly have got to develop, and certainly the senior team were found out, and I suppose that's the only way I can describe it. Playing McDonagh Cup, you see it was very hard to stand back and watch it. Like 6 minutes gone in the match, and it was 1-6 to no score, and you're going, oh my God. And I think the whole crowd, even like there was 10,000 people at it. The Offaly people, as you all know, like they follow teams and they follow them good. But in terms of what was happening going forward, it's a hell of a lot of a difficult situation now to pick up a senior team for Johnny Kelly to go back in next year. Look, there's an awful lot of changes has to be made, and an awful lot of things has to be done. But it's one that I suppose that they'll take the challenge, I've no doubt. But yet to step up over the next 12 months, going to Division 1B, it's going to be a mighty challenge for them, you know. Now, granted, there's teams not as strong as the 1A situation, but like it's going to be a mighty challenge for Offaly going forward.
Yeah, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, do you just kind of have to forget about these days and focus on the positives, like the minors winning last year and the 20s getting to Ireland, and understand there probably will be days like this?
Look, yeah, I agree, Jack. But you know, there can only be so many days like this, you know, and that is the pinnacle of the situation where they've disappointed. You know, and it's not, and I certainly know in terms of Johnny Kelly has done everything in his power right, to get Offaly to the top level. And as has Michael Fennelly before that, you know, there's been an awful lot of structures, good structures put in place. They have the best training facilities in Ireland, and I that includes anywhere you go in this country, in the 32 counties. Offaly have the best training ground. They have 4 fields, above and faithful fields. They have their gym, their astroturf, video analysis rooms, canteens, everything is there, right? So it's now, and I'm not putting pressure on players up there, but it's the players have got to step up to the mark. And certainly when you put the structures in around them, I've got a great reaction off minors and under 20s. Johnny Kelly got a great reaction this year. They won promotion from 2A to 1B. That's another step up the ladder. But you wonder after last Saturday, and this is the doubt that such a defeat creates, are they really prepared, and are their bodies more than anything else prepared to step up to that mark, to top tier right this minute after last Saturday? No, they're not. And it's part of the project will be now is to mind last year's minors, to mind the 20s teams that, you know, they've stepped up, they're playing at the top tier level, they're getting 2 years in a row, which is no mean feat, getting to an All-Ireland final 2 years in a row for these guys. And it all comes from within, and they've bought in. These young guys have bought in, and they've really stepped up and performed for Offaly. And as I said already, the crowds that follow them are absolutely massive. The atmosphere, it's very unique, you know. As I mentioned it reminded me of my minor days when we were going out to Bruff playing the Corks and Tipperaries. Matt will remember this, and we turned it over Cork in 1984, and we got on to win All Ireland minors in '87 with Phil Binnis bringing these teams. And it's one of the unique occasions. It's not in a stadium, but it's very, very unique, and it creates a unique atmosphere. And certainly below in Dr. Cullen Park this year, down the 20 final, these players bought into that, and you know the crowds in around you, and you learn from these occasions, and you probably learn more from being the crowd in around you and creating the atmosphere than you do going into, you know, the likes of Simple Stadium and these places for preliminary matches where like there's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people, and you barely know they're there. So certainly going forward, you know, Offaly have a lot of work to do still, and they're making progress, but still a hell of a lot of work to do. And as I said, the most important thing is probably to protect the players that played in the All-Ireland under 20 final. I know there was 2 of them. Charlie Mitchell got a goal and 2 points last Saturday against Tip, and really, in fairness to him, played well. Sam Burke was out in the middle of the field, taking off at half-time, but has performed admirably this year and really is beginning to step up to the plate. But it's going to take a period of time. And then there's Cathal King, Luke Watkins. There was 3 or 4 of them on the subs bench. Certainly that, you know, in time they will begin to step up, and they've enjoyed it all. And one that I hope that they stay loyal to Offaly Hurling and do that. The most important thing as well for them, I think, over the next couple of weeks and months is that the colleges they're going to, that they do go in and play Fitzgibbon Cup with these colleges. They do work on their strength and conditioning, and that the programs are put in place. I know from a 20 point of view, I know the program's put in place already, and they're beginning to start working on it already. But like that's what Offaly have got to do, and it's going to be a continuous job, 52-week job for the year for Offaly, for these players to be able to step up to the mark. And especially when you're trying to, which is really, in my opinion, a 6-year project, when you're trying to squeeze that into a 3 or 4 year project to get them up to the next level. Like next year is so important that they do go on and win a McDonagh Cup, and hopefully they do that and step up to the plate and get into Leinster Championships and be contesting. I saw Offaly twice this year against Dublin senior hurling team, and certainly the very first day was like, I think it was early January, and I looked at it in terms of, you know, the structures and what the Dubs brought. Micheál Donoghue was new in the job, and the enthusiasm that he brought down to Faithful Fields challenge match. Like that's the thing where Offaly really need to learn from and really need to step up that way.
Yeah, I suppose it's part of a project, and the green shoots are there, but it's just days like Saturday are very disappointing. I suppose, Matt, are you trying to jump in there?
Yeah, no, I was just on the general point that Leo was making there about the value of the McDonagh Cup finalists going into the All Ireland series. To me, it's a bit of a charade. I think that, you know, the finalists, although, you know, it's hard to lose the final and certainly lose the McDonagh Cup final in the circumstances in which Offaly lost it, but they should be allowed to go away and bask in what their success is. Now, the game was of absolutely no value to Offaly. If anything, it probably set Offaly back after what was a very, very good year overall. And now Carlo did put up a creditable performance against Dublin, and I suppose the game was of value to both sides. And we'll know that on Saturday when we see how Dublin will come out in the Gaelic grounds. But I think the overall point that you made from the start, Jack, and I certainly hope that the inkling that Leo has got about the future of what I call a charade is about to come to an end.
Yeah, I think. Go on, Leo.
I just think Matt, we're both singing off the same hymn sheet here. I think like the McDonagh Cup be the McDonagh Cup. They go up and play it above in Croke Park, and that's their day in the sun, right? And I just think it should end there from, right? Okay, both counties, like certainly Carlow, go away and prepare for and move on to the McCarthy Cup next year into the Leinster Championship, and that they're able to go out and perform, right? Johnny Kelly referred to it this week. I was just talking to him, and he said it's like a 2-year game of snakes and ladders. You're climbing the ladder, and you get up 1 year and you're back down the next year. I think that's the thing that the GA have really got to look at. And like, Donal Cusick is, he's very, very strong and he's forthright in his ideas. But to be quite honest, I think there's a lot of credit in what he's saying. And I think that the GA need to look at hurling as well. And I think that, the Carlows, the Offaly's, the Westmeaths, and they're the perfect example of it. They haven't really achieved a hell of a lot up at the top tier level, but they stuck in there and they're improving the whole time. And I think that, as I said, it's probably, in terms of an overall structure of the GA, it's probably a 10-year plan that the GA need to put in place to get these counties back up to a level. Because when you look at it, like let's be honest, I suppose the Munster Championship is the stronghold of it now, where you have 5 teams. And certainly, like above in Leinster next year, you're looking at Dublin, Kilkenny, Galway, and Wexford, right? So it's going to be 3 out of 4. Where down in Munster, it's going to be 3 out of 5. And it's back to our point, earlier questions that we addressed here, in terms of, the amount of effort and time and the energy zapping out of a Munster Championship it takes out of your body to win a Munster Championship. It's certainly like winning an All-Ireland, right, at this stage. And this year, and we said it very much earlier as well, that, to win a Munster Championship now is massive. But in terms of overall structures of the GA, like Antrim are isolated up there. It's very, very hard for them. I know above in Derry with Schlockneil and these places, like, there's all small pockets of hurling around the place. You look at Eastkey above in Sligo getting to an All-Ireland junior hurling final this year, the same day as Moan Lean played. These are pockets of hurling that really need help from Croke Park, and I think it can be worked on, right? Granted, you won't get them all to the same level, but certainly, I think that the counties need to be able to step up and make the lower levels of hurling more competitive as well, so that when they are successful, when they do step up, that it's not such a major, I suppose, nervousness attached to stepping up, like Offaly experienced last Saturday against Tipperary.
Yeah, it's definitely something
Jack,
that need... Go on, Matt.
I was going to say that we can't depart from discussing Offaly and let Leo go without asking the question about the man that, in my opinion, lit up this year's Under-20 Hurling Championship, Adam Screeney.
Yeah, and you know what, Matt? I'll tell you something, let you into a little secret. He's coming to UL next year, so you'll be able to see him playing fresher hurling with UL next year. He's just after finishing. He's just after finishing his leaving cert. He's a talent. He's one of what I think 4 or 5 very unique talents in that Offaly team. I certainly think Dan Ravenhill, Conor Doyle. There's a good few of these guys that I know right this minute have applied for colleges in Limerick to come down and play fresher hurling. I certainly think Conor Doyle will be soon. You'll see him with LIT. Definitely Adam is coming to Limerick. I know that. So in terms of that, like he's a unique talent. He has dancing feet. And this is the part that you will really enjoy, Matt. He's actually put on 7.5 kg, Matt, since the All-Ireland final last year, and he still looks tiny. And to take the punishment that he took this year and kept coming back, be it in all rounds of under-20 hurling championship. He has lit up the hurling world this year. He's a credit to himself. He's a credit to his family. And he's one of the most unassuming young fellas that you'll ever come across. Cannot speak highly enough of him. Cannot speak highly enough of the Offaly players. And the way I have been consumed into Offaly has been absolutely a credit to the people. But it's one that at the end of the day, it will end someday. And as I said to Adam, and I said to the likes of Dan Ravenhill, the likes of Conor Doyle, even Liam Hoare, a young lad who fell very ill this year and has gone through a tough 3 months and played in the All-Ireland minor final last year with us, and we played the whole year with him through illness without him this year. There's a lot of things, Matt, behind what you see on the field, and these guys are really, really genuine GAA people, and that's why I suppose that's what keeps us all going, Matt, even though what I'm not doing is not in my home county, but certainly that I am enjoying, and that you enjoy spreading your knowledge, spreading your experiences of different things, and trying to put these counties on a map. And look, I can't speak highly enough of Offaly, Michael Duignan, what the Offaly County Board have done. It's been the perfect opportunity for me to go out and express myself, what I have learned in Limerick over a 10 and 11 year period, being involved with Limerick Underage Academy and Limerick teams. But certainly, the whole thing, and the Adam Screeney thing, like, wouldn't I love if he was a Limerick man? That he was coming through for the next, if we looked at it, that you'd have 3 or 4 Adam Screeneys coming through. Certainly Offaly have them coming through, and that's my point, Matt, about they've gone to a senior team and they have to make their own way, right? I know there's certain players there that are very, very good. Owen Cahill, Ben Keneally, these players, they have a lot of experience gained now. And certainly some of them with colleges level and Fitzgibbon Cup and Freshers Hurling. So that's the way forward for Offaly, and that's the way forward for Adam Screeney. And look, it is what it is, Matt. But certainly, every when I see videos on YouTube and videos coming up on social media, it's so enjoyable to look at him and to say, did that really happen? Because when you're on the sideline, Matt, you really don't see a hell of a lot because you're looking out at grass level. But certainly when you look back and you see, he has lit up the world, the hurling world this year. And look, as I said, he's going to be putting on a UL jersey next year, so that's vitally important.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting
to see him down. Sorry, Jack, let's hope that putting on the UL jersey is any chance he'd follow in the footsteps of Joe McKenna all those years ago.
Look, I don't think, no, Matt, to be quite honest. I'd say that they have chains around his ankles and around his hands, and he's well tied to the Offaly situation. Like, Matt, he's just, I'll be honest with you, he's an unnatural sportsman. He plays golf. No matter what the guy does, that he's competitive, and he might be small in stature, but I tell you this, he's a competitive little animal.
Yeah, he's a brilliant player to watch and been very enjoyable. But before we let you go, Leo, just on Limerick, obviously, that you mentioned there, your time with Limerick. How would you summarise their campaign so far in Munster? Obviously won the Munster Championship, but very different, I suppose, the previous 2 or 3 successes.
Very, very different, yeah. I just think this year's Munster Championship, I think Limerick have come back into the pack a little bit. And I think other counties have stepped up. Certainly, I think Clare have made a major step forward. They've taken a lot of lessons from last year, and Clare have improved the whole time. And I think that Clare have the potential to go on and win in All-Ireland. And it wouldn't be one bit surprised, when it happens over the next, hopefully not at Limerick's expense, but I think over the next 2 or 3 years, I think it's going to be vitally important for the Clare that they keep the momentum going that they have. Tipperary certainly are going to be a formidable opposition for Galway on Saturday, and certainly one that I think that last Saturday, if there's one thing that really struck me about him last Saturday, right, and I know it's different in competitive when you're really playing a team that are equally as good as you, but certainly there was a freedom and there was an expression of their natural hurling ability last Saturday, which I haven't seen in a Clare or in a Tip team that they've always kind of played the last 2 years with certainly what I would term a little bit of fear, and did they believe at any stage that they were really contenders and going to go on and win in All-Ireland, because certainly they suffered at the hands of Limerick. I think that Tip have, what Liam Cahill has brought to him, has brought a really, really competitive edge, and I think that that's one of the most formidable things, that if Tip do get over Galway, that Tip are going to bring to Limerick. Limerick's campaign has been we've been slow. Last year we were slow as well, and I think last year we got the timing exactly right to get to when we got to the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway, ironically, and we'll say the All-Ireland final against Kilkenny. I think we improved as we went along all year. This year I think we've had to step up a little bit earlier, and certainly that's really, it's a little bit energy zapping, but I as the break worked for us, yes, I think the break will work for us, but certainly I think Limerick could become a different animal when they get to Croke Park, and we all know that. And I think that's the ultimate prize for this Limerick team. And I think that urge for the 4 in a row is going to be massive. And I think that's one that the players will want to achieve. It's going to be very, very tight, Jack. And Matt, you probably agree with me. I think there's 4 teams at the moment, and you can put the 4 teams into that, and any 1 of the 4 could win in All-Ireland. And that's, for me, is the most important thing. But certainly a performance that we're Munster champions, we've done 5 in a row. By God, when I saw a stat last week where there's 4 Limerick players with 6 Munster championship medals and 4 All-Irelands. Did we ever think that we'd see that? That's up there with the best. But overall, Limerick's performance, they've been improving. I think they'll step up to the mark the 8th of July at 6 o'clock above in Croke Park. I think that will really drive them, because they know when you get that far and when you're in Croke Park, you're within touching distance of the finish line. It's like the 1,500 metres when you're coming around the final bend. I think Limerick are coming up to the final bend now. And I think that's one they'll get 2 performances out of themselves that will drive them to the next level and get back to where they have been over the last 2 years. And certainly as they go along, I know Declan is a loss. Injuries hopefully will tidy themselves up. I think they'll get Cian back in the field, a really fit Cian Lynch back in the field, hopefully. Declan, I think, Declan is Declan. That he's coolness personified, but I think that urge to do what he really knows that's capable within touching distance, I think that'll happen. And hopefully Limerick get over the line again and become 4 in a row All-Ireland champions.
Yeah, and lastly for us, Leo, you mentioned Declan, obviously. Who do you think will replace Declan, or how do you think he'll be reshuffled?
I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Will O'Donoghue at centre-back. No,
and Cian into midfield? Yeah,
if Cian is anywhere right, get Cian out into the midfield. I know Cian at centre-forward worked a treat, but I think Cian's ability to win ball and get ball into the forwards, I think, is vital that we get that back on the field. And I wouldn't be one bit surprised if William O'Donoghue goes back centre-back. That's the way I'd be thinking. Because certainly I think that William O'Donoghue is a stopper, physical presence. He almost sits in front of Declan anyway. Different type of hurler to Declan in terms of that. A lot of what Will does is hand passed, or just that short 10-yard hurley pass, whereas Declan is able to spray the ball 40, 50 yards around the place. And I think with the benefits, if Cian is fit enough to get him back on the field, Cian can offer you that in from the middle of the field, and certainly William would offer you a different physical presence at centre-back than Declan. Declan is more of a hurling centre-back than Will O'Donoghue. We all know that Will O'Donoghue can play at centre-back because he played centre-back with Piercy as well in the past. So I just think that way. There is the option of putting Coyle, bringing Colin Coughlin in. There is the option of bringing Dan out, putting Richie English in cornerback. There's various different options. Certainly, and it's one of the things, I suppose, that if you look over that 5 or 6 year period, Limerick John and the management team have kept their cards very, very close to their chest. There has been no leaks out of that camp. And I think that's a credit to John and a credit to Caroline Currid and these people that, everyone is wondering. My hurling brain would be thinking of putting William O'Donoghue back centre-back and try and get Cian Lynch back into the middle of the field, provided he's fit enough.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I'd just like to ask Leo there, Declan Hannon is a fantastic hurler, but no question about it. And you're right, there are options there. But in terms of the loss of his leadership, there's going to be a leadership deficit on the field without Declan Hannon.
There is, Matt, but without shadow of a doubt, I suppose the players have really stepped up to the mark, haven't they, over the course of the last number of years. Declan has left the field of play at various stages over the last number of years through injury. and they've always seemed to step up to the mark. They've always taken responsibility. And I suppose, and this is a testament, and I don't think the players owe each other anything, but certainly what Declan Hannon has done for Limerick Hurling, not alone in terms of what he's done on the field, but in terms of being an ambassador for Limerick Hurling, being captain of a team that, lifts 3 All-Irelands in a row and so forth. Like, if there's anyone deserves that opportunity to get back to an All-Ireland final and be given the opportunity to lift the cup for 4 years in a row, he's lifted the Mick Cup 5 years in a row now. Like, I just think the players will want to do it for him. It's just, there is different scenarios with different things within that Limerick team, but the amount of respect that I know that the players have for each other, I just think that's so important. And I think that level, without Declan, I think the players will want to step up for Declan.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there, Leo. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I still think Limerick get through the line. I think you're cautiously optimistic, but you've been very good to us with your time there, Leo. Well over the time we thought you'd be, but
No problem.
very, very
No
grateful
problem, Jack.
there with your time.
Thanks.
Best of luck as well, I suppose, going forward, Offaly. It is brilliant to see the work you're doing up there. Leinster last year, Leinster this year, just fell short at the final hurdle, but you spoke very highly there of the county, and please God, they'll be up with the powerhouses like Limerick in the not too distant future. But for now, Leo, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks a million, Jack.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Leo.
Matt. Talk to you soon, lads. Thanks a million. Bye.
Good luck. Now, Leo O'Connor, Offaly under-20 manager and former Limerick hurler, with a load of brilliant information there, Matt. Valuable insights into Offaly and
absolutely,
the
but
prelims
that
and Limerick.
That is Leo. He's very forthcoming with his time and very forthcoming with information. I think but behind it all, he has done an absolutely fantastic job up in Offaly, taking him to the threshold of an All-Ireland minor title and to the threshold of an All-Ireland under-20 title. And certainly, it won't be Leo's fault if Offaly don't make the breakthrough at senior level in the coming years, because he's certainly putting the building blocks in place in terms of nurturing and bringing through these young players. And you see how carefully he brought through 10 of them, to form the nucleus of his squad in the space of 12 months. So, huge credit. I've utmost admiration for Leo and for what he did in Limerick as well.
Yeah, he was involved throughout those Barron years as well, and he was obviously there on a bad day with Offaly a long time ago. So for Limerick,
he has managed teams to win the under-20 at under-20 level in both provinces. He managed Limerick in 2011, and now he managed Offaly in 2023. I don't know if there's anybody else that's done that.
A unique CV,
yeah.
And it would not be surprised if he led Offaly to an All-Ireland title with the way things are going with them and the players he's coming through. And we wish him all the best of luck, because it's good to see those counties coming through, because we all love hurling. We want to see as many teams operate as a high level as we can. But leading into that, Matt, we obviously have our quarterfinals this weekend. We spoke to Leo in depth about those. Obviously huge to have a double header in the Gaelic rounds. If anyone has any tickets going, they might give us a shout, because I'd love to head into the Gaelic rounds. But I wouldn't take away from someone from Clare or Dublin or Tipperary or Galway, because we have our day in the sun coming in Crow Park. But I'd love to be inside there first and foremost. But you spoke about
if our listeners had believed that now, Jack, they'd believe anything.
Yeah, well, I when the lads said we go, I said yeah, but tickets were gone by the time we looked at them. So if there's any spare tickets floating around, you know where to find me. But on those quarterfinals,
your benevolence knows no bounds, Jack.
No, I'd be like that, all right. If I want something, I'll ask for it. And all people have to do is say no, or I can't help you there. But we spoke about. Oh, Matt is after going. You fell out there briefly, Matt. Whatever happened there, but we spoke about Galway, Dublin, and Clare, and potential banana skin and everything, and it's quick turnaround for Clare. For me, it seems very similar to last year, where Clare are playing that third team for Leinster. It was Wexford last year; they didn't really root up many trees. Dublin weren't great in Leinster. yes, there'll be a hangover from Clare, but I cannot see them losing.
Yeah, on the face of it, you cannot see him losing, but there may be one big performance in Dublin, and like Micheál O'Donoghue, as Leo said there, like he's doing a fantastic job, just as he did in Galway, and I would not discount there being a shock there, but from this remove, I would say it's going to be Clare.
Yeah, and then it's the other one is really the one that the team to play Limerick will come from that second game, Tipperary and Galway. And again, we spoke about it at length, but that's a game that, you know, really could go anyway. If Tipperary find the form they found last week, and under completely different circumstances playing Offaly, it is to play Galway. But if they play like the Tipperary we know, and Leo alluded to, when they get going as hurlers, I don't think there's any county that can match the raw natural talent Tip hurlers have. It's everything else. And like we had some epic games between Galway and Tipperary in 2015, 2017. You know, if we have another one of those, I don't think we'll care to come out the right side of it. But who would you be edging for? Because I don't think you'd be confident in picking either team.
I wouldn't be confident in picking either side. My reservation about Tipperary hasn't changed all year, is about the concession, the level of scores that they're conceding. And like it was epitomised in the problems that they may have in defence there last week when they conceded 3-18 to Offaly while scoring 7-13, 38 at the other side. They're not going to score 7-38 on the colour of it next Saturday in the Gaelic grounds, or if they do, we might as well all pack up and go away. But I had this thing about Tipperary from the start of the year, and I think you looked askance at me when I said it at the outset. But there is a Liam Cahill factor, and you must remember, Jack, that there is a lot of players on this Tipperary squad that have 2 under-20 medals in their back pockets. Well, they have an under-20 and 100 and under-21 medal in their back pockets.
Yeah,
and that is a similar basis to what we had, which formed the nucleus of the Limerick team, and that you under 20 successes in 21 successes in 15 and 17. Now Tipperary had them in 18 and 19. And a lot of these players, the Mark Kehoes and the Jack Morrises of this world, they're all coming through from that now. And Liam Cahill guided them through it. The similarities between Limerick and Tipperary are many, and practically uncanny now that, you know, they're closing the gap on us. And I have a hunch Tipperary may get over the line, but only just. It's a cautious vote, Jack.
Yeah, for me, I still think it'll be Galway. I don't know why, really, because they really shouldn't. They shouldn't be in this game first and foremost. They should have beaten Kilkenny. But outside the point, I just think Galway will feel that they've gone toe-to-toe with Limerick twice in 3 years, and I think they'll be desperate to get back and have another crack off Limerick. And it'll be a Limerick team that hasn't really performed to their max yet. And the last 2 years Galway played them, they were absolutely lifting. So I think they'll be keen to play them, and I think that might just edge it. But I think it could come down to individual players, the likes of Conor Whelan, Cathal Mannion, Conor Cooney at one side, Evan Nyland, and then the fire. Like there will be a lot of scores in this game, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, the one downside I see about Galway is, and I have the utmost respect for him, and particularly Conor Whelan, and I was delighted to see in particular, you know, I'm a big fan of his. I was delighted to see him returning to some kind of form that we know he can do in the Leinster final. But they're coming from a heartbreaking defeat, and it's going to be a big job to lift them. Now Tipperary had the benefit of that run out against Offaly, so
Yeah.
that is conditioning my thinking, and it's one of the reasons why I'm giving Dublin a chance as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we don't know.
Galway and Clare have suffered very, very difficult, defeats in their respective provincial finals. notwithstanding at all the fact that you lose it by a point. But the circumstances in particular in which Galway lost it. No, it's going to be a test of Henry Shefflin as to how he can pick up his side.
Yeah, and again, I just think it's very similar to last year. That Clare are playing the third place team in Leinster that weren't going great, and also Galway got over a Cork team last year, and even Leo has mentioned how good Cork are, and we've all mentioned how good we think Cork are and the players they have, and Galway got over the line last year, after losing a Leinster final. So I think it'll follow suit, and I think the final four will be the same. You think definitely 3 of the 4 we know, and then you're just towards Tipperary, but it could go either way, Matt. Could definitely go either way. And look, that's why we love the GA. That's why we love hurling.
Well, you see, Tipperary are boosted by the return of Craig Morgan, a very important defender. Although you'll say team conceding 318, but the return of Jason Ford and Jack Morris has been massive.
Oh, 100%. It's a mouth-watering affair. Thank God it's only over the road. And as I said, if there's any tickets going, there's one man on your screen right now that'll certainly take them off you. Before we go away from the hurling, Matt, I just wanted to play a short video with Eamonn Grimes, the 1973 All-Ireland winning captain for Limerick. We were at an event in the Strand there recently enough, and 𝘕𝘰𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬
Here talking to 1973 Limerick captain Eamonn Grimes of South Liberties, and as you can see, he has the Liam McCarthy Cup in his hands again as he did 50 years ago. Eamonn, a great day planned ahead, celebrating 50 years of a very special year for Limerick hurling.
It's absolutely fantastic, absolutely. It's great to be here, and we're going to enjoy it.
Great stuff, great stuff. And have you any particular memories that stand out when you look back at that year 1973?
There are huge memories. Getting there, number one. I mean, we hadn't been there for quite some time prior to that, and the fact that it was, 33 or 40 years, yeah?
Since the Mackey era, yeah. And
I'd say every one of us, we weren't at any of the previous finals, so it was something new.
And it was so important, I suppose, to bridge that generational gap, wasn't it? And to succeed the likes of Mick Mackey. And of course, Jackie Power was a selector in 73, wasn't he?
He was, and Dick Stokes as well. They both represented Limerick. But it was marvellous for us insofar as we hadn't experienced it, and what we did experience was absolutely tremendous. I mean, the homecoming was fantastic. The crowd, I mean, the wet day, as you well remember, the wet day that it was, the dye from the hats was running down onto their shirts. And I must say the reception, as I look out now, it was down there in Artuskey, that the reception we got was absolutely fantastic.
And of course, the Munster final is a game that everybody remembers fondly too. And it was a day like today, a lovely hot sunny day in Thurles, and it was a huge breakthrough to finally get over the line and beat Tipperary that day in Thurles, wasn't it?
Oh, it absolutely was. And whatever they say, I still say Richie Binnis scored that point, and it was definitely a point. But the last 5 minutes of that was the most hectic match I ever played in. The hair literally, proverbially stood in the back of your head. The tension and the excitement that day. That was by far the most intense and exciting match that I ever played.
Well, you'll be happy to know that in the process of researching the book, we actually spoke to Mick Slattery, the referee, and he said about Richie's point, he said he was so sure it was a point that even if the goals are 20 yards further back, it still would have went over the bar. So 50 years on, Hawkeye says ta to Richie's point.
I definitely say ta to it as well. Yeah,
good stuff, great to see. So listen, Eamonn, really enjoy your day. You're going to be presented to the crowd later on. Such a pleasure to talk to you today. Enjoy yourself.
Well, thank you so much.
I was on mute there, Matt. That was Eamonn Grimes talking to Liam O'Brien and Queenie or Limnock. Great. You know, it kind of gets lost in the radar that Limerick are going so well now that 50 years since that famous day in 1973 when Limerick beat Kilkenny in the final. And we won't dwell on it too long now because we'll have time later on in the year. But, you know, without that success, that 45-year gap for Limerick becomes nearly 90 years. You know,
78 actually, Jack.
sorry, 33 and 45 is 78. But it as there's a book coming out by James London later on in the year, and it's called Keeping the Dream Alive, and that's the big premise, that there wasn't this massive gap. There's obviously two large gaps, but the team of 1973 kept that dream alive. It made a 78-year wait a 45-year one, and it's great to see clips like that from Liam, and there's plenty more to come during the course of the next few weeks. So stay tuned there. But it's always good to hear from Eamonn Grimes, the 1973 winning captain. But moving on now from the small ball to the big ball, Matt, and unfortunately, it was defeat for the Limerick footballers in the Tailteann Cup quarter-final. And a really tough pill to swallow from Mark Fitz and his side, and you could hear that from Mark in his post-match interview. You could see it from the players at full time, and you can watch the game back, and it's hard to see what went wrong for Limerick, but it did go wrong, and that's the most important thing. And Limerick are out. 𝘬𝘴𝘴𝘰𝘪𝘢𝘵 kicked Limerick into a 14 points to 9 lead in the 47th minute, I think, and Limerick wouldn't score again. And obviously the goal, it was a mistake by Limerick. These things happen. The goal wasn't the deciding thing in the game. It was Limerick's missed chances in front of goal at the other end, and their inability to just get a score to stem the tide, because Laois didn't blitz Limerick by any means down the stretch. They just tacked away their scores. I mean, 1-5 in a half an hour's football isn't the most impressive tally. Like, it wasn't like a smash and grab. It was just they plugged away, and Limerick lost their momentum and couldn't get it back. And just such a disappointing Saturday it was in the Gaelic grounds.
Oh yeah, Jack. Now I know you were there. It's so disappointing. I've seen the footage of it. I've seen a lot of it back, and those goal chances that went to begging, and that's not reflecting on any of our players. But because the goalkeeper made an absolutely stunning save for one of them. Let's not discount that. But on another day, like I thought when we were 14 points to 9 up, here we go, it's going to Forum, and we're going to the semi-final, because here in this cast, Jack, we seem to be pretty confident and unanimous, in the lead up to, during the course of the Tailteann Cup, that there was at least a semi-final in Limerick. And as late as last week, I felt the same, that they would beat Laois, because Laois were coming to Limerick, Jack, with what I thought were poor credentials, and we discussed it with Pat Ranahan last week. And Limerick seemed to be doing the business. It seemed to be going through to Forum, although I have the narrative in the radio on the lead up to the match that Limerick were facing bang-in Forum Laois just because they'd beaten 14 man for mana, and hadn't won a game in the Tailteann Cup, and only got in by getting a point in the last minute to put London out. So I thought it was going to plan. I think it's a big disappointment for Limerick football. We would be looking forward to a game in Croke Park at the weekend had we got through against Down. And it would have been another opportunity to benchmark ourselves. Look, it's not the end of the season that we would want. No, the season, it started with the McGrath Cup, getting to the McGrath Cup final, suffering a heavy defeat in the McGrath Cup final. And then we had the whole league situation, which we have discussed ad nauseum, and I'm not going to repeat it. And then with the promising performance against Clare, and that seemed to morph into the Tailteann Cup, and with a couple of good performances, and had qualified with a game to spare. But something sort of went off the rails against Wicklow. It was a dead rubber game, and I suppose that was part of it. But they seem to have recovered last week and seem to be doing the job against Laois, and it just went wrong, Jack. And it's a disappointing. There's no sugarcoating of it. It's a disappointing end to the season. Very disappointed for Mark Fitzgerald, and certainly very disappointed for the players.
Yeah, it's been a topsy-turvy campaign as we went through it, but we thought we were getting those green shoots that we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years, and we did get them for 45 minutes in the Gaelic rounds, there was one team dominant. And I mean, the goalie, from my recollection, the goalie made 2 very good saves. He kind of stopped one attack in its tracks and 2 went wide. You know, if you put one of those away and it's 114-9, you know, I think you take the win completely out of Laois's sails. And I think that makes it more disappointing then, Matt, that I don't think Limerick will turn around and say they were beaten by the better team. You know,
No, Jack, no.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you suffer defeat, you've got to put your hands up and say, yeah, the better team won. But, you know, from what I saw of it, from what I've heard about it, and you were there, Jack, I cannot bring myself to saying that we lost to the better team on this occasion. I think we were the better team, but I'd be a small bit worried about that lapse of 23 minutes of regulation time at the end when we failed to score. Now, I know that there were dreadful weather conditions feeding into it, you know, but they were dreadful for Laois as well. But it would suggest to me that Laois probably adapted to the conditions better than we did. I would just put that forward as maybe some bit of an excuse, but our inability to score in that last 25 minutes of play, actually, if you count time added on, was our undoing, you know. And but overall, the better team on the day lost.
Yeah, and that's not green mist by any such imagination. Like, there was one team.
Not so great, Jack.
No, it wasn't. And look, Laois won. At the end of the day, you know, we've seen teams that we love win games they shouldn't have, and put our hands up and say they shouldn't have won that. But that's definitely one that Limerick should have won.
But Jack,
I do like
before you go away from the Tailteann Cup, and I was in Thurles the day that we played Limerick, played Tipperary in the round robin, and Down were playing before it against Tipperary, and I was very, very impressed with Down.
Yeah.
And I said to myself on that day coming out of Thurles, I said, this is the benchmark for the Tailteann Cup. And I think Down will be very, very hard to beat in that competition now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's an awful pity that Limerick don't have a chance to play against the likes of Down, who are definitely going in the right direction with the Kilcoo boys in tow. And I just think from the Limerick game, you know, I think it's important to say there obviously was a big mistake for the goal, but I wouldn't put any blame of the result down on one player, because it was one incident in a 70-minute game. Limerick had so many chances at the other end, just went to begging. And, you know, I wouldn't. What happened with the goal happened with the goal.
I'm not factoring in the goal at all, Jack. It was the collective inability to score in the last 25 minutes.
Yeah, and just a pity, because there was some really good performances from a lot of players. Like, again, Barry Coleman was really good in his debut year. Very good. Kicked an early score. Cathal Downs kicked the first score. Was quite ish, but, you know, a really solid year for Cathal. Hugh Burke was back to his brilliant best. He kicked 3 alone in the second half, 4 overall. One of those was a mark. Like, and, you know, he was really finding his form. And those players outside of that, obviously, we wish the best to Brian Fanning, who was in some sort of a knee brace. So I don't think he would have been back for any sort of the game, any games down the line. But hopefully he'll be back for Palace Green first and foremost. But really disappointing, Matt. No positives to be taken from the day itself. But I think when Limerick look back on the year overall, and a couple of new lads came into the fold, the likes of James Naughton nailed down his place. You know, last year he started a lot of games, but I don't think he started the Munster final. You know, he's one of Limerick's main men now. Cian Sheehan was brilliant again. Ian Corbett got over his injury worries. You know, there was positives for Limerick, but it'll be a while before we can really reflect on those, Matt, just by the nature of the defeat. But look onwards and upwards for Limerick football into 2024. For the ladies football team, Matt.
Before you go from men's football, the Masters are out this week.
Well, I was going to go to the Masters at the end, but you can fire into
all right. No. I'll go with you. Go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to leave them for the end. But in contrast to the men's team, the ladies footballers had, I suppose, a facile win at best to describe their heavy win over Kilkenny, hit them for 7 goals. Not much really to say from John Locke Park. We didn't really expect much different. Limerick got the job done. A lot of players got on the score sheet. Kicked a fair share of points as well to go with it. So, look, it was job done. That's a game that we never saw going a different way, only a comfortable Limerick win.
No, but I saw the entire game, Jack, and there's something I'm a long time in this game, but there's something that I've never seen before happen. That a team gets five scores, 1 goal and 4 points in the first 3 minutes and 6 seconds exactly. That will give you an idea of the start that Limerick got. It was simply phenomenal. Like, they got a point within seconds, Cairn O'Leary, and from each kick out, it was kicked back over the bar, and eventually one was put in the net, and it's Bob's your uncle nearly after that, because look, Jack, it was a mismatch. No use to either team. What it does for either side, I don't know. For Limerick, I suppose a pipe opener. It gets the away game out of their system, and they have 2 home games now against Sligo and Down to get the job complete. But I would seriously worry about, it's not my business to worry about Kilkenny, but I would worry about a system that, and I having said that, I worry about it, I can't come up with a solution that allows a team into a situation like that, like Kilkenny, that there isn't some stepping stone. But where is the stepping stone? I don't know, Jack. But I'll tell you, it's been a baptism of fire for Kilkenny. Limerick have scored 11 goals and 44 points against Kilkenny in 2 games this year, and only conceded a goal in 6. Goal in 7, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't even think Limerick have put the highest score on Kilkenny this year. I think that's just makes for more harrowing reading. But look, job done for Graham Shine and his side. We, as we said, didn't expect any different. They've Sligo first on the 2nd of July. That isn't fixed yet, but it will be on in Limerick on Sunday, the 2nd of July. So
it is fixed actually, Jack. Both of Limerick's 2 remaining games are in Newcastle West.
Oh, lovely. I was in Newcastle West last
We've only
Friday
one
week.
step now. We've only one step to go now to take him back to 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝑦.
No, I was just about to say I was in Newcastle West for an 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 hurling game. They won the West Championship to beat 𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 in Newcastle, and walked on the field afterwards to see Owen Condon lift the cup. But the pitch was like a carpet in Newcastle. Now, it was in the midst of the unreal spell. They've had a fair share of rain in Newcastle since, but that pitch, unreal. And I heard as well that McNeville Park should be ready for the county football final. Now, we did hear that last year, so hopefully this time around it will be ready to go. But yeah, the ladies footballers will be back in action against Sligo on the 2nd of July in Newcastle. So I'm sure they'll do their due diligence in the meantime to be ready for that game. The Masters, if you want to jump in now, Matt, they're obviously playing Westmeath this weekend in Westmeath in their 4th game of the championship. As we had said to Anthony McCarthy at the start, every team will get into a knockout phase, but I suppose they'd want to get a win on the board.
Yeah, every team except 3, Jack. There are 23 teams in it. The bottom 3 will be relegated, and the other 20 will break into 5 groups of 4. Now, Limerick are hovering very close to the bottom at the moment, and they badly need a win. I saw the game against Laois a week last Saturday out in Kilteely, and it was disappointing from the viewpoint that Limerick had put up. They had a win over Waterford in the first round, had a very, very promising performance against Kerry and Rahena, but this was a disappointing performance. But if you delve behind why it was a disappointing performance, they were shot 4 or 5 of their big players from around the middle third who had been key in the previous games. And I suppose it's the nature of the thing that at this level players can't commit themselves to week in, week out. And Laois got a goal within about 15 or 20 seconds. So, like, they were on the hind foot right from the start. Now, they showed a bit of a revival at one period in the second half. They kicked 4 or 5 points in a row, but at that stage, Laois had gone out the gap. They had gone practically out of sight. It was a disappointing result. But Jack, may I say that I would like to congratulate the Kilteely Club, the Kilteely Drumkeen Club, and their excellent facilities out there. I hadn't been over there since pre-COVID, but the amount of development that has gone on there is simply phenomenal. And the way they approached the logistics of hosting the game and their hospitality, it was just second to none. And congratulations to the club. Now, Limerick travelled to Westmeath to Mullingar Shamrocks on Saturday to play Westmeath at 2 o'clock. Westmeath are 1 point better off in the standings than Limerick. They've got a draw with Laois in the first round. They defeated Kildare in the second round, and the last time out they lost to the combination of Leitrim and Longford. But it is very, very important at this stage that Limerick get back on the horse and get back to winning ways. And if they're to feature in the knockout stages of the competition. Now, they will have Roscommon in St. Patrick's 2 weeks later. That's in St. Patrick's in Rebogue. Before concluding their group stages with a trip to Cork. Now, I don't know what the venue for that will be, but look, it's nearly into must-win time for him. A win, I think, would safely see him through to the knockout stages, but it won't be easy in Westmeath. We know the kind of grief that Westmeath have seen to year in, year out visit on Limerick senior footballers, and we've come so near to beating them, but they seem to be our bogey team. But I certainly hope that is not passed on to our masters.
No, please God, they can start to move up the table and look forward to a knockout game and get away. And I suppose getting a win over Westmeath would be the perfect start in doing so, and to leapfrog the Leinstermen. So best luck to Anthony McCarthy and the side this weekend. Moving into Camogie, Matt. And I suppose like senior footballers, it was disappointing. Comfortable loss to Waterford 2-19-11 in Cappamore. We had said it would be a very difficult, tall order against the Waterford side that you really could envisage getting to an All-Ireland final, if not winning the whole competition. That has been their trajectory in the last 2 years. But, it ends Limerick's chances of a knockout game. It puts them into relegation battle with Offaly. Just, again, disappointing.
Very disappointing, Jack. I was at it. I suppose, in fairness, we didn't expect Limerick to win. No. It was a repeat of last year's quarter final. I think Waterford have stepped on from last year. I think they're a better side. They were down 3 players on Sunday. Carla Griffin, Abby Flynn, and Lorraine Bray. Now Limerick were down a number of players as well. And you had, we know about Rebecca DeLee out all year. Quiva Lyons was out, and then going into the game on Sunday, lost Myrne Kramer, our fullback, our vastly experienced fullback. Myrne has suffered an injury in her leg, possibly ligament injury, but she doesn't know the full extent of it yet. But she was a huge loss. Marion Quaid went in fullback, and Aoife Nelligan from Monleen came into the corner. Look, it was a plucky performance by Limerick against a team that were physically stronger, Jack, and a team that possessed a number of exceptionally good hurlers, camogie players. And of course, they had a certain Miss Beth Carton, who scored 112, 1-8 from play. She was irresistible on the day, practically unplayable on the day. And Limerick just couldn't live with it. Now, there was a couple of promising performances by younger players, which would give hope for the future. Like we had the usual, the Cleaver Costellos, the Claire Keatings, the Sophie O'Callaghan's, leading from the front, Marion Quaid at full back. But I was happy from a Limerick point of view with the performances of the like of Tracy Dorr, Stephanie Wolfe, L.B. Larkin. I thought they had very, very promising performances for the future. But for the here and now, Limerick have a real task on their hands, Jack, to preserve status. They go to the situation at the moment is they go to Offaly, win the Camogie match, and they're safe. Go to Offaly and lose the Camogie match, they're embroiled in a relegation playoff with the bottom teams in the other two groups. So they could make a clean cut of it if they can get over Offaly the next day. But it's disappointing. It is disappointing. But look, we expected that it would be very, very difficult against Waterford, and that's what it was, Jack.
Yeah, I suppose it did go to script. If you were neutral, you would have expected a result like that. But they'll just need to beat Offaly now in the final round to, I suppose, bring it into their season quicker rather than later, because you get embroiled in relegation. Then is the only thing, and that's the last thing they want. But
we'll be talking about it next week, and without preempting what we might be saying next week, but I think they're capable of beating Offaly. Yeah, I've seen Offaly this year. When it was a make-or-break relegation game in Mick Neville Park. Now this game is likely to be in Banagher or Burr, and of course, I'm just taking note of Offaly's results against Antrim and against Waterford. And I think that our results against those two who have qualified for the quarterfinals are far more encouraging, Jack.
Yeah, they are more. And look, it's nice to end the year with a win, and just rubber stamp the year and put it in, and then you can look forward to 2024, as we said, for the footballers. We had planned on doing a segment about the 5 Munster titles in a row, Matt, but we might leave it till next week. We're going a bit longer. There's one more thing I want to run by you, and that is the injury to Declan Hannon. That I suppose we probably didn't really see this coming, that he'd be indefinitely ruled out 3 weeks from the game. Now, there would have been worries definitely leading up to the game, but I don't think we envisaged a scenario where that I think it was Sunday evening, was it, or Monday morning, that we got the news confirmed by Limerick GA that Declan was out, and it'll only be the second time in 12 years that he'll miss a championship game, which is phenomenal for first and foremost as a stat. But and because of that, we haven't had to, under John Kiley, we haven't had to play anyone really at centre back from the start in the championship game, bar that day against Tipperary, which turned out to be a dead rubber game because Limerick won the rematch in the Munster final. But there are a number of options, Matt, and we will probably look at it again next week. But there was one that caught the attention of the faithful on Twitter, and that was the inclusion of a certain Nicky Quaid at centre back. Now, we all know how good Nicky is in the goals, and we've both seen Nicky play at centre back for Evan. On his day, he's definitely one of the best centre backs in Limerick. But I said it more in jest than anything. I presume you can't envisage a scenario where Nicky is wearing a number 6 jersey.
No, I can't. But first of all, let's wish Declan Hannon the very best of luck for a very, very speedy recovery there. And of course, thank him for all. We could never say enough thanks to him for all that he has done for our county and his leadership and his hurling ability. But I think Leo O'Connor, there in our earlier segment, I think he spelled it out quite clearly what the options were. I hadn't myself, I'll admit, thought about the 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 centre-back, Colin Coughlin coming in, or Dan Morrissey going to centre-back, Mikey Casey full-back, and Richie English in the corner. But William O'Donoghue is a very, very interesting one that Leo spoke about. But it's a huge call by John Kiely. But I'd say that the word came out so soon was to dispel any rumor that may be going around the place about it, about his impending absence. And I think the county board and the Limerick management were dead right to do that. And one thing about it is that Limerick have 3 weeks, to get accustomed to what system they're going to play. I have no doubt John Kiely has probably decided at this stage who's going to replace Declan Hannon, and he's preparing the team on that basis.
Yeah, they'll know inside Limerick camp. They'll know now who's it going to be. But there are a lot of number of interesting options. Will is one I had thought of, but I thought actually Dara Donovan might be more obvious to go back in there. He played there for Doon 2 years ago. I think Will just offers too much in the middle. I think Dara could do a lot of his good work from centre back. Barry Nash is another option, and I saw a few places that wanted Hego to go in at 6. He obviously plays there for St. Pat's as well, so it'll be interesting to see what Limerick pluck for. But it's one that we can definitely look to next week, Matt, because we'll know who we're playing, and it might be a case of once we know what kind of a centre forward the other team are going to bring, or kind of a forward unit, that we'll be able to know better as to how Limerick are going to operate.
Saturday is going to clarify a lot of that, Jack.
Yeah, we'll know for definite who we're playing this Saturday. 80 minutes on the clock there, Matt. Is there anything we're missing in any progress or anything like that, as they say on Taylor's podcast?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm sure once we go off, we'll remember something, but I think we might leave it there. A huge thank you, as always, to Noel's Menswear, our sponsor, for getting involved and being very good to us. To Leo O'Connor for his excellent contribution there for the first 40 minutes of the podcast. He gave us an awful lot of time. In fairness to him, to you, of course, Matt, as always, to the people watching. And I must say, the reaction we're getting is greater every week, Matt. Like, we're getting higher numbers every week on YouTube and all our socials and on wherever you listen to as well. So make sure, if you are listening to it on Spotify, like it, rate the podcast on YouTube, like, subscribe, Twitter, share it, retweet it, all that good stuff on Facebook as well. And keep saying it to us when you meet us. I met a fella outside the Still House after Munster final, and he said, "You're the fella from the podcast." And there's been a few more like that. So it's always good to hear from people that are listening to. I worry about those people that listen to us every week. Have they nothing better to do with their lives, Matt, as you'd say, than listen to these two fellas? A lot of people have said they just see me on their YouTube now. They can't avoid me. But look, it's
some people gravitate towards the intelligentsia, Jack.
I don't know. They must have gone on a YouTube wormhole to eventually won't wrap up with us. But it's brilliant to hear from people in all walks of life, and we love doing it. So we'll keep providing the content as long as there's content. And I suppose next week as well, we will have the start of the Club Football Championship. So there will be more than likely a separate pod next week. There'll be two free to divulge into. So it's going to be a busy week next week as we look ahead to the start of the Club Championship, and we'll know who Limerick are playing in the All-Ireland semi-final. So it's going to be hectic, but that's what we love in the J community. And as I'm talking there, it's just bucketing down rain. So the gods must know the podcast is coming to an end. And
we're basking in glorious sunshine here in beautiful Glenroe. If I could only turn the camera out the window in case you think I'm cutting you, Jack.
No, I can see the sunshine coming in. No, it's still bright, but it's lashing rain, and that's just the way the weather has been going in recent times. But look, we'll call it a day. That's
God's own people.
I think everywhere, wherever anyone is from, it's God's country, I think is the way they describe their own townland. But again, a huge thank you to everyone that's getting involved. That's episode 238 in the books. Matt, thanks as always, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Jack.
Especially in the game, we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the 𝘬𝘴𝘰𝘬𝘪𝘢𝘵𝘪𝘰𝘯 today. No more about it. They made all the run, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴 𝘔𝘦𝘯𝘴 and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have